First of all, hi. Very happy to be with you today. My name is Sabine and I am a customer education manager at Slido. My specialty is to show you how you can make the most out of Slido in as many ways as possible. And so far, we've heard from some amazing leaders and trailblazers about building trust in the workplace. What we maybe haven't heard so much about yet is how you can implement these concepts and behaviors into your day-to-day working lives. We have some inspiration, but we can definitely keep going. So welcome to this masterclass where we will do exactly that. And in our daily work lives, if yours look anything like mine, they include a whole lot of meetings. Oh yeah, I said the bad word. Meetings, everybody's favorite. And let's get started with those meetings, shall we? So let's jump right in. How much do you agree with this statement? Meetings are great to build trust. Are they? Or are they more of a snooze and lose situation when it comes to building trust? What do you think? And we have the votes coming in. Yep, mixed feedback. That's what I thought. Speaking from experience, I think. 2 more seconds for you to vote. I see. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Actually, I think that's what I feel, but also what all of you feel is like meetings can be great, but they can also be horrendous. And we have looked into the relevance of meetings for building trust further. And actually, we've conducted a research last year among business leaders and discovered that meetings are far more crucial for building trust than one may think. Oopsie. Okay, so in reality, meetings and comms are the 2 greatest transmitters of trust at work. How? First of all, because meetings are often the place where leaders get to show up and lead. Plus, meetings are the place where leaders can demonstrate the values and the culture that they want to bring to the organization. We have talked about this a lot today in a session also with Liz when she asked you to self-assess. So that is the crunch time when you are in a meeting, when you bring yourself to the culture in a way and to the team. So meetings are in fact powerful tools. And it doesn't surprise that on the other hand, bad meetings have a bad influence. And through research, we've learned that actually 43% of people who have ever attended a meeting at work, so that's most of us, they have left without saying what was on their mind. 43%. Now, when you compare that to your reality, I am so sure that you have been as well in this position at some point in your life. And unsurprisingly, those meetings make people want to leave. Like 1 in 3 employees is looking for a new job or is inspired to look for a new job when meetings are consistently bad. So obviously, these things are not great. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We are here to shake things up a bit, and we are going to do that with the wonderful Trust by Design framework that Leah has just presented to us. So, do you remember the Trust by Design framework? And now that was the cricket moment, no problem. Let me bring it back. It was very fast. So first of all, the 5 behaviors that foster trust are to connect, to create safety, to commit, to be clear, and to celebrate. And that is what we're going to cover in this session. We will walk you through each of these, and I'll give you a Slido example that you'll be able to copy paste and use in your upcoming meetings. Little disclaimer here, we will focus on the facilitation part today, not the specific tech setup. So we will include information about the tech setup in the output email for each Slido use case, so you'll be able to get started right away. And with that, let's rock on. Okay, so start with a connection. As Leah mentioned, the first behavior is creating connection. We trust leaders and teammates who demonstrate that they care about us on a professional and personal level. When I feel seen, heard, and valued, that's when I trust you. And what better way to start a meeting than with a quick poll to connect? That's what icebreakers are literally for. They are a great tool to bring people together and find some common ground. We do tend to like people more the better we get to know them. And fun questions like this one about, your childhood career dreams can help to build trust slowly, and you can introduce Slido for your meeting as well. And I can also recommend trying out our AI quiz feature, which can help you to create a quiz that is specifically targeted to the favorite topics of your team, in case you already know those. Okay, sometimes the clicker is not cooperating with me, but we'll figure that out. So, about creating safety. Sometimes you need to be vulnerable at work, but it can be quite tricky, right? And we need to have those candid conversations with the team, and they do require psychological safety. Luckily, Slido can support you in creating spaces that are safe and judgment-free. So let's see how. So first of all, imagine a conversation with your team. Maybe there have been misunderstandings or conflicts lately, and it's time to review how you guys work with each other. This open text poll that you can see on the screen right now asks, what is one unwritten rule that you would like to establish in your team? I think that's a wonderful question, first of all, to have a look at norms and how you would like to work together. And secondly, Slido is perfect to create that space where feelings and ideas can be shared without judgment for a few reasons. So first of all, it doesn't require anybody to be courageous and speak first, which is like pretty stressful for many of us. Instead, everybody can think about and write down their answers first, and then they can be reviewed together as a team. No voice is more dominant than the other. Secondly, you can enable anonymity, which you can also see in the poll example here on the screen. And that adds a layer of safety to your team members if they feel shy about sharing. So, how can you facilitate a conversation like this? First of all, I think Leah also mentioned this before, always start with the why, give context and reasons, because you cannot really, it is weird to expect people to just follow along and open up if you don't introduce the concept, if you don't let them know what is going on, and if you don't create that sort of bubble first. So give context and reasons. Open the poll with anonymity turned on, and be sure to post two. Don't expect the others to go first. Be ready to go first. What you could also do alternatively, it is possible to create a Slido poll and share it ahead of time. So you could do that. You could share the poll, and then your team members can think about their answers already before the meeting, and you can all start with the poll already ready. Then in the meeting, you review the results together, and you moderate the discussion. It is very important that the space is judgment-free, patient, and fair. And for that, don't be scared to actually moderate. Don't be scared to give boundaries. Make sure that not one person gets the opportunity to dominate the conversation, because in that moment, very often psychological safety goes out of the window. Agree with the team on the next steps. So try to get to common ground and to move on, and then implement the next steps. This is incredibly important, as Leah mentioned. When we just give promises, but we don't follow through on them, it is going to eat away trust so quickly. Coincidentally, that is also the next behavior. How can you increase commitment? So, as Leah also explained to us, committing is doing what you said you were going to do. And of course, Slido cannot create that commitment for you, but it can be an accountability buddy for you and your team by collecting input that you can always review again later, for example, through Slido Analytics. So, how you can do it in your team? Actually, if you want to see more commitment from your team, a first step can be to give them more agency and to take their feedback seriously, which is also a commitment from you as a leader. Here's a two-step idea for you. So imagine that you are discussing a new project or a new initiative and you're looking for feedback from the team. Ideally, you would want their buy-in. So first, you could run a rating poll like this one that you can see on the screen right now to sort of take the pulse and assess what the general feeling is about the idea. And then if they love it, you will know. But what if they don't? So if they don't love it for whatever reason, that's actually a fantastic chance for you. So even if the feedback is mixed, or even if the feedback is not great, it is your chance to not only find alternative solution, but also to increase everybody's sense of agency. So ask them what they would do, for example, with this open text poll, and see why. So see what happens. Maybe the next great idea will be right there. So how to facilitate this conversation? So first of all, you are going to present the topic, and then you can sort of do Slido round 1, where you run the rating poll to check the polls. You review the results together, and then there will be round 2 if necessary, where you open the open text poll and you ask, so what alternative ideas do you have? What should we prioritize instead, and why? Be sure to moderate the discussion. Again, remember the boundaries. Remember that it's a judgment-free space. It's supposed to be patient and fair. And agree with the team on the next steps. And of course, implement the next steps. The implementation of it is the crucial part. That's the part where commitment kicks in. Slido is going to be your accountability buddy because you can check the results and the topics that were discussed, all of the ideas in your Slido analytics when you need to. And with that, hopefully you're on a good way to increase more commitment, more agency in your team. So this is already number 4. How can you create transparency? How can you be more clear? When we feel like somebody has an ulterior motive, trust will diminish very fast. An antidote to this can be to communicate your why or purpose behind any topic in question. And the Q&A, leadership Q&A, but also in general, the Q&A can be the perfect opportunity to collect those burning questions and thereby bringing clarity to the team. An added bonus is the option of anonymity in Slido again, which adds to the feeling of safety to your audience. Now, especially with leadership Q&As, those can be quite prickly and they are usually intense to prepare. So I have some tips for you here. Please take it with a grain of salt. We have dedicated webinars for this, and the steps that I'm giving you now are mainly a very high-level summary of what needs to be done. So first of all, you need to collect those questions. In Slido, we usually do it in advance. So we open the Q&A, we share it with the team in a message, and then people can already start to post their questions, which is perfect because then in the second step, the assigned moderator can get together with the speakers and review the questions so they can think about their answers ahead of time. The moderator at the beginning of the actual meeting opens the meeting and guides through the questions, and the leaders answer as thoughtfully and truthfully as they can. Now, keep in mind that this was just a very quick run through, and we actually ran 2 dedicated webinars about this last year. So if you would like to learn more about how to prepare your speakers, but also how to do the tech setup and prepare your moderator, check out these resources. We will add them to the output email. So the last behavior, we're almost done. How can you celebrate together? Everybody loves to be celebrated for a job well done, and everybody likes to give a shout out to those who were helpful. So how can we do it in a meeting to celebrate those that went above and beyond for us? Well, in Slido, we do have a beloved Slido staple that we call the Silent Hero poll that you can see on the screen right now. And it's a fantastic way to boost the morale of the entire team with a simple word cloud. So how do you run this? How do you get those silent heroes? So first of all, you share a survey in advance. Usually, we do it for before the all hands meetings, and then the silent hero is a part of our monthly all hands meetings. You have a survey with 2 questions. One of them is the word cloud, who's your silent hero, and the second one is to leave a nice comment. And if you want to remember what Leah said, you can try to be as specific as possible about why you are appreciating that person. So you share that survey, and then you can also run it again during the meeting in case somebody was late. And then you display the word cloud with the names live, and boom, instant happiness. It's wonderful. And you just enjoy. And afterwards, you can share the nice comments with the respective person after. Usually our HR team takes care of this, and they can find everybody through Slido Analytics. So, how do you feel now? We have run through 5 behaviors very quickly. I've given you a Slido example for each of them. Are you ready now to build trust in your own meetings? Let me know. What do you think? From a scale from to, oh yeah, born ready. How do you feel? Looking good so far, looking good. I am impressed. Perfect. Okay, but for the few of you who maybe don't feel that secure yet, no problem. This was a fast and furious ride. So I'm going to share with you a few tips to take home in order to make your facilitation of those sessions and meetings successful. So first of all, start with the why, especially when you want to cover an unusual topic, like, for example, team trust and team norms. Always start with why and give your team some context. It's very simple. Do not expect them to open up if you don't go first. Be the role model. And also, secondly, make sure that you explain how Slido works, especially when you have more sensitive topics that you're discussing and people might be scared that their answers can be traced back to them and can be used negatively in any way. Point out that anonymity can be used if, of course, you decide to enable that in your organization. And start with some light, like, warm-up questions before you hit the tough stuff. Okay, and lastly, whatever you do, try to be aware of the culture that you want to see and to be the role model for it as best as you can. If you want openness and clarity, try having a Q&A or try asking your team for their input. Be gentle and respectful about the answers, especially if you don't like them much. It may not always be easy. I totally understand. We've all been there. But as was mentioned before, with patience and consistency, you will be able to create trust in your team. And if you would like to get more inspiration, we will add the Slido Trust Report, which is a big project that we did, to the output email. And on top of that, there is going to be a dedicated booklet about the trust framework by Leah Rowe and her wonderful company, The Perk, that was created together with Slido examples. And now is actually time for you and time for your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sabine, for running us through this practical masterclass. We have a couple of questions for you. The top one being from Anonymous. And again, I would just love to encourage the audience to upvote your favorite questions so we know what are the topics you would like us to answer today. But Sabine, question: are you running leadership Q&As at Slido? And I think the two of us actually have this experience to share some from the kitchen. How do leaders prepare for those? I'm worried that if our CEO is not coming across as trustworthy, the sessions will actually create more harm than good. What are your thoughts on this?
I think this is a fair assessment, because if the CEO does not come across as trustworthy, it will backfire. So that is definitely a thing to consider. Yes, we are running leadership Q&As at Slido every single month, and in moments of crunch time, even more often. Nadia and I are actually facilitating those. So we have been in many of those sessions. We have run a dedicated webinar about how our leadership is tackling those sessions and how they prepare themselves, where you can actually hear Pali Dudrik, our GM, and our head of people, Kati Gabova, speak. So we will include that in the output, but very quickly. We always share the Q&A in advance, which gives us the opportunity to check sort of the pulse and check the questions before they come in. In Slido, we do not use moderation, which means that every question can be posted and anonymity is there. So people can use anonymity. When you are an active moderator or when you have an active moderator, you do not need to be concerned so much about inappropriate questions, because a moderator that is well prepared will know how to tackle those. What happens sometimes if we get an inappropriate question, we just rephrase it in a way that takes out maybe the undertone or whatever it is, but keeps the core of the question. Because at the end of the day, it's a question that somebody thought fair and valuable to ask, and our leadership appreciates that. At the same time, our leadership is meticulous about preparing themselves, so they screen the questions, they prepare their answers in advance, they write them out, they practice them, and then as we say in German, when the moment comes, they close their eyes and go through it. So at some point, it's also a leap of faith, for sure. But so practice.
And I would just add, if your culture, if you feel like this would be a huge step, what is also helpful is that you can open the questions in advance, you can close them, so then you have time to prepare for the questions that already came in. And for example, you can create a little video where your CEO or leadership answers to these questions. And then slowly, step by step, you can also build the trust of the leadership towards such technology, right? Because I can also understand that sometimes this feels very scary. And it's true, it is scary. And also for our speakers today, right? They have no idea what questions I'm going to throw at them. And it really, your heart is racing because you don't know what people want to hear from you. But I think it's also about practice. So it is also about building the psychological safety with your leadership team in whatever way works for you.
There is another thing that we always do after every all hands, which is we ask for feedback. So if you are concerned about the impression that people get from your CEO or any member of your leadership, if you give people the chance to leave feedback, hopefully they will tell you. And that is going to give you a tool to proactively work on the fact, instead of having an impression or a thought or a maybe and not really knowing how to navigate it at all.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sabine, for co-answering this question. So there's a question from Anonymous about the silent hero activity. Could it be that some people who are not mentioned in the silent hero will have a lower self-esteem as a result, and what to do about it?
That is a fantastic question, and I think that could happen. It also depends on team size. So we do it in the all hands. All hands is a big meeting. There's usually more than 100 people in there, and Slido doesn't display 100 answers. I think the Slido word cloud displays about 50. So it's not really surprising if you don't see your name there. However, if you do it with a smaller team, that may happen, and then that will backfire. I think you as a leader can make sure to, bend the rules a bit. And if you maybe have the fear that somebody might not get mentioned, you just post the appreciation. You just do it.
Yeah. And also another tip, if you're running Silent Hero, is that you can add this open text, and our people team is actually sharing little messages. So you don't only have a mention of, okay, you've been a Silent Hero for someone, but you also know the reason why. So that's quite a nice touch. Mm-hmm. All right, Sabine, I think we actually ran out of time. There are more questions for you, but there's a couple of shout outs and people asking how can they get more resources. So we'll definitely get back to you and share more in the output